Perfect.
So now you can call them.
We got it. Now I will call this meeting to order of the Timoth Equity and Inclusion Committee at 7:06. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you for coming out on this what is it, Tuesday evening? First order of business is to review the agenda. If anybody wants to move anything around or change anything, now would be the time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve.
Second,
All in favor?
Right.
Aye, excellent. All right, minutes. We have a couple of minutes, but I did not include them in when I sent out all of this, I am now realizing as I'm saying minutes that I didn't send the minutes when I sent out the agenda.
Which everyone should have received the minutes after the last.
Yes, after the last meeting, but then I didn't resend them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that we could, I mean, I don't know how we feel about approving minutes. Since I didn't send them out as a refresher for this meeting. Anybody have an opinion about minutes, approving minutes, waiting to approve minutes?
Unless it's against the law, I'd say, since people all have them,
Yeah,
we should be able to approve them.
yeah. I am fine with that. Does anybody else feel differently about that? Did everybody have an opportunity to read them? Logan sent them out after our last meeting in November. That was when our last meeting was.
yeah, there was something that.
It would be a good practice to send them.
Yeah,
an
I-
agenda.
I
Make
thought
a
I had,
start.
Whoever sends them.
that was me. That was my fault.
Oh,
Almost
I have,
remember all of
so on the back the topic, the topic. Next meeting will be the language of nativism,
Native
and that is not something that we agreed on. I believe that we were going to talk about indigenous.
Right,
And what is indigenous, so that is something that I would like to change, so that would. reflect
Actually,
The last.
if we
meeting.
could just make sure we check a recording of that.
It was the end of that conversation was that the topic would be nativism.
No, that was not the end of the conversation was, you were telling me that I was not indigenous. And
True.
I
But
said.
And the
that we need-
discussion topic would be about nativism.
But we did not agree to that, and that was not.
the committee did agree to that, but I also, we're not discussing that during this meeting at the moment.
Right, but I'm just saying, I want some clarification.
All right. The
Because
the secretary
we were-
will review.
The secretary
recording.
was not at the meeting, but she was listening to it, and when I read through this in the tails, I said, no, we were not going to be talking about nativism, we were going to talk about what the term indigenous is.
We do
I
have a
have the
recording.
recording.
Okay, so, and if you wanted to listen to the recording, maybe.
So when I read through this, I said that was not the topic that we were discussing, it
Oh,
was.
I
And-
think we have a misunderstanding is the problem.
And we're not discussing the topic today anyway.
Right.
It's not on the agenda.
But in terms of minutes, whether we're gonna approve the minutes or not, I say we don't approve the minutes, we'll wait till our next meeting. If everybody can look at the minutes, and then maybe if the whole committee can be sent the recording of the
Mhm.
meeting, so we can all listen to it.
How do people
It
feel?
doesn't- Recordings don't email.
Oh,
They will have to log on to the
Okay.
town's website and watch them there.
Can we put them onto
So
that?
maybe that you should
Well-
write something in about the fact that we were going to discuss the definition of indigenous with townspeople and not necessarily.
I
the
don't, we
term
think that, I
townspeople?
don't think
It
that
wasn't
was,
with
I think
townspeople.
we're having a misunderstanding, and also I don't think this is relevant to.
It was relevant to the last meeting, and I do think it's relevant to the terms and the things that we're going to be discussing in this group. So I think
Okay.
it's important that we discuss and know what.
We'll put it on the
Indigenous is.
agenda for our next meeting, and we can all review the recording, and we can all think about it, because I think the committee might have a different interpretation of that than you came away with. Your interpretation might be different than what other people have, and so we'll give everybody an opportunity to talk about that at our next meeting when it's fresh and we'll refresh, we'll listen to the recording, and we'll we can have that conversation because it might be a longer conversation. All right, so we'll postpone approving the minutes until our next meeting. All right, anything else? We're gonna wait on that. So we're gonna go to I put open meeting law discussion and working group reorganization on the agenda. I'm thinking maybe we should talk about. I guess I'll just give you guys some context here. So part of this was me trying to think about how we're going to start off 2023 and how maybe we want to reorganize the working groups as in the new year. And part of that open law meeting discussion was how we operate as working groups when it comes to open meeting law and what aspects of the working groups make sense to be held within, a committee and what maybe should be moved into something that doesn't require that kind of open meeting law. Like we had talked about last time, the mutual aid committee had some ideas about needing to be able to take action, and that's something that. is hard
Working
to
group,
make. Yeah, sorry.
we don't
working-
have,
So just that was where I was coming from, and I wanted to kind of open the floor to discussion about. I know that we've been talking a little bit about it, but I want to talk a little more about how we want to reorganize the committee as a whole for 2023. And I think my goal for this meeting is to kind of set goals for the committee for 2023. I sent out some, it's further down on the agenda, but the Vermont League of Cities and Towns has a lot of information that they didn't have a year ago when we started. And so I think it would, it's an opportunity for us to review and refresh and just think about what we want to do this year. Anybody want to speak about this? Is anybody on the working group, the mutual aid working group, want to talk about some of your thoughts?
Well, this is Melody. I know that we discussed aspects of the working group, maybe becoming part of a different entity, as the fire department already does that in certain capacities. And so we would take maybe some of the specific individual help that we provide for families, individuals in town, and move that to the fire department.
Yeah,
But things
so-
like the operator's manual, working on that, and those types of things would remain as part of open
Yeah.
meeting law activity.
Though reading the open meeting law
yeah,
info you sent us, there was something about like co-editing documents,
right. Yeah,
how that has to be warned.
right. Yeah, you can edit documents in a warned meeting. So you could work on a document within a warned meeting together
Mhm.
and edit it together.
I think the issue is you need to be following, the meeting law. And
Right.
if you look at to whom the open meeting laws apply, it also applies to meetings of any committee or subcommittee that is created or empowered by a public body to do its work, no matter the size.
Mhm.
Right.
So you really need to be following, these subcommittees are not doing, they're not.
we don't have subcommittees.
Working groups.
Well,
right.
I mean, it's, the smaller groups of people really need to be adhering to the open meeting laws. And they are,
And how we what work that they have been doing that maybe doesn't fit within that framework, like the meal trains and the
Right,
I think-
actionable
right,
things we were discussing moving outside, but so then the question comes back to, we created the working groups in an attempt to get things done without having to post meetings all the time. It wasn't a hide things. It was, we thought we were being,
We weren't doing it right.
Well, right, we were trying to encourage more community engagement because the idea was it would be fewer. It wouldn't be a quorum of committee members, it would be a small group of community members and a larger group of community members, but of course. It is hard to, engage and maintain
community involvement.
community members unless you're part of, something. And so I think we've learned from last year that model didn't quite work out how we had envisioned it, at least in my mind. While we still don't have a quorum of committee members on the working groups, it's still been a little bit cumbersome because the goal of engaging more community members in that work has not really panned out as well.
Mhm.
And so I think I would like to entertain the idea of just thinking of, we don't have, I don't even think we have to decide anything tonight. I think we just should talk about it
Yeah,
and kind of think about what our goals are and how the working groups should be formed and what we want to what actions need to be taken by the working groups, because I think that's the one thing that we were not following to the law very well. We were warning meetings and we were taking minutes and all of that, but I think the part that we were
Well, you were
I don't-
warning them within
I
the
don't think we were
specified
taking
time.
minutes. I never got any minutes from the working groups.
well,
Yeah, I think they were taking notes of what they.
yeah,
did.
notes.
Yeah, no, you need
In
to,
a working-
Historically, I remember when we were first forming this and why we chose working groups was a suggestion from Reen Wilbur that would make it, so we could take notes within our working group, but it wasn't a subcommittee or a committee where it was more structured. And you had to follow more strict, so that way it was more fluid and we could work on things without the cumbersome addition of having to warn the meetings and all of that. And that was why we chose working groups.
right, but now, and I think now we're trying to work out that
If that model works or not.
and we're getting feedback that it doesn't.
Right,
And so we need to discuss or figure out how to either restructure or be
right,
on top of warning,
right.
which
be on top of warning.
it's a pain in the butt. And yes, we can,
I mean,
Yeah. but that,
Well, that's.
that's what you're
That's the
Yeah.
supposed to
purpose of
do.
the open meeting law is to
Yeah.
allow participation, everybody to know
Right,
what's going on. And, despite what Reen said, a working group is a subcommittee of this committee,
right.
unfortunately. It's-
Yeah. Yeah, it was
you
a
can call you call yourself what you
misunderstanding.
want, but
Right, I think what we were understanding from Reen, maybe it's not actually true. So we ran with that and and while so I'm thinking that,
I would propose a motion that all subcommittees and anything around this board adhere to the open public meeting laws. I would make a motion that goes into effect immediately.
does anybody want to second that?
Can we get a clear motion?
is that a motion?
I make a motion that the Equity and Inclusion Committee always adheres to the open meeting laws set forth by the state of Vermont, whether it is a full board or a subcommittee of any sort, as per
Including
statute,
the working group?
including the working groups.
Okay.
Question. Can
Well, we gotta have a
we have to-
second and
okay.
then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I second,
Okay, now we can discuss it.
okay. Does that then, so now we are these subcommittees.
Yep.
Now that we're adhering to open meeting law,
There can be a quorum of,
yeah,
we could.
and we
all
can take
go.
action, or only if there's a quorum? We
You only
still
take
have to
action-
get
you only
action.
take
from-
action if there's a quorum.
Yeah,
Okay.
only if there's a quorum.
And you
Okay.
can, subcommittees can take action if the big committee allows you to take action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some subcommittees are formed and you have to report back to the whole committee
Right,
to make a decision.
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean, some of the working groups, you really don't need a committee meeting the committee to approve, they're gonna have a fun day.
Mhm.
right,
But if you were doing more of the committee work,
you're right.
it depends on what authority
The committee
is given to the,
Right, authorizes right, what actions the full committee authorizes the subcommittee to take. Any other discussion?
This is Sherry. It seems to me that we're being asked to approve a motion that's already the way the law is. It seems redundant to me.
But yes, and we haven't been warning in that we haven't been posting at the 3 physical locations around town. We've been doing the posting on the town website, Front Porch Forum. But I think the only thing missing is the
Minutes
physical pieces
and
of
physical
paper and
paper.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
Doesn't
what
mean
I'm
it-
saying is that it's we've now learned that's what we should be doing. So the motion seems redundant.
Well, I mean, right, we should just, we shouldn't need to vote on
You
following
should
the
just
law.
make a
Right.
unanimous
We
yes,
should
that
just
we're all going to adhere
Agree
to the
by
open meeting.
consensus that we can change it to being agreeing by consensus if we would like to. To follow the law.
Or just vote, I'll vote yay and we can move on. It's-
I would say we agree by consensus that going forward, we will follow the open meeting laws of the state of Vermont.
Does
And
anybody?
we will,
none-
will we be renamed committees then and not working groups? Is that part of this?
I'm not sure the name matters as much if you would like to say, I keep saying committees anyway, so you can call yourselves whatever you would like. All right, I'm hearing consensus. Is there anybody who does not agree to following the law?
I don't want to, but I will.
All right, great.
that's your father.
I
one time
know.
said, everybody vote aye. Instead of,
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do. All right, so now that we've agreed to following the law, do the working groups now, or the subcommittees want to reorganize now, or do you want to have that be part of a discussion you have as a working group going forward? I'm thinking that Rainbow and I talked a little bit about the research and development group and how that maybe should be sort of like pulled back into the full committee and be more a part of what we work on all as a group together.
Yeah,
Um,
and then if there's like a specific thing that we're working on that needs more attention, then
right,
you know, subgroup can work.
can
work
break
as
off,
that, and then,
right,
You know.
but rather than having a separate group working on things, it could be, I think there's a lot more work we can do as a full committee. And I would like to try 2023 working on more things and just getting together and talking about it.
Well, yeah, I think that would help us be, instead of being in our own working groups and coming back and
Right.
reporting back, having us working on something together, I think would be
Yeah.
good for the group.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that, I feel good about that. Do we want to dissolve that working group, or do we want to just keep it for when we want to break off and it doesn't have to meet? Unless it needs to.
My opinion is we keep it because I mean, it doesn't really matter, but we could make a motion to dissolve it and then make a motion to reinstate it, or we could just
Right.
keep it.
Just
So
have it in the
keep it.
back pocket.
or you just, if you find a need for it at a meeting in July, you just say, who's interested in working on this project?
Yeah.
And just have
Just
people
do it.
go do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Mhm.
great. So does anybody have anything they want to talk about when it comes to this agenda item besides what I've talked about?
I think I'll say that mutual aid is continuing to discuss how we wanna
shift.
So we've had 2 meetings discussing it, and we'll continue to sort of refine our
Yeah,
thoughts on it, and we can come back at our next meeting, hopefully with like a concrete
right,
plan.
right. Yeah, that was one of the things that did make me think of this whole thing was like, right, when somebody needs help and they come to you, how do you operate within a municipality in that way? So trying to figure that out was
Mhm.
complicated, so.
I mean, I know with the community center board, if there's an issue that comes up, you know, I, the manager, can be like, hey, can you please call a meeting so that a
Mm.
decision can be made? So if there is something that comes up,
Be an emergency meeting,
you know, the working group. Subcommittee, what have you,
right, could
could
call in a meeting,
put a request into the board to
right,
call an extra meeting,
Mhm.
if it seemed necessary.
I think it's 24 hours before for an emergency meeting. Is it
An emergency meeting would have to be a real emergency.
Emergency,
you know,
right,
like
right,
There's
Um,
nothing in here
it's-
that's an emergency.
right,
A special meeting
special meeting,
is supposed to be 24 hours. The
24 hours.
emergency can be less, but
okay, I
We
think I
need at
meant to
least
say
24.
special meeting, I couldn't think of it, but special
you need
meeting,
to remember that Front Porch Forum only comes out once a day, so.
Right.
You know, at 4 o'clock, if you get your
Mhm.
notice in
Right.
before then, it'll appear otherwise.
right,
Mhm.
But it turns out that Front Porch Forum isn't a public entity anyways, it's a private group, so.
Oh, that's a
Right.
good point.
I mean, that's what the Secretary of State's information said.
right. It's so hard because you're like, there, you know, who, more people read that as a news source,
Mhm.
but, you know, versus like posting it in the Herald, which.
Or posting it at the town office in the Community Center, how often do people go there?
Exactly.
It does feel
Yeah.
pretty relevant,
There's, I mean, I don't look at, Front
But there are
Porch Forum.
people that aren't on.
Right.
Front Porch
I mean,
Forum.
Right.
I have no interest in looking at it, and
yeah,
I wouldn't know unless I went to, you know, the
Yeah.
a physical copy was walking
Do you
into the town office.
Come and check often for meetings and things that are happening? How do
Yeah.
you stay abreast of?
Yeah.
You do. So, you know,
There are people that don't, that prefer not to
Right.
go on and look at Front Porch Forum.
and that's, so
Right.
part of it is looking at what are, you know,
all
part,
the options.
yeah, and like things are shifting, you know, like. Some people only use technology, some people don't use any, and so like things are not the same as they were when the open meeting laws were created. And so it's like, for the aim of accessibility, like we need to explore all the options, not cutting any out, not saying we're not gonna do some, but you know, how do we reach more people when you know, we're a
Right.
tiny town, but it's very hard to get a hold
So
of.
we'll keep posting on Front Porch Forum as an extra, and if we're required to also send it to the
Right.
Herald, we can.
Yeah, no, you don't have to send it to the Herald, it's a select board when you have a special town meeting or
Yeah.
something that has
It's
to
like a
go in the
news,
paper.
something.
Or the planning commission, if they're gonna have a hearing, that
Yeah.
goes in the paper, but typically notices of meetings don't have to.
Okay, then perfect, that'll be our plan. Anything else? Reba?
I was just wondering if there was, no, I don't think. No, if there was just like a way to, if there was any good, tricks for being more on top of posting and all those things. I know that I,
An alert on your
Gail
phone.
knows, I also struggle with that for the Conservation Commission, so,
So typically what you can do is you can appoint somebody on the Conservation Commission to do it. Along the other groups, you know, it's the secretary that's responsible for sending, the chair makes the agenda, the secretary sends it out to everybody and sends out the minutes, so it's, you know, it's how you define the job.
Delegating.
Chuck's
Yeah.
gonna be hearing from me.
Oh, yeah, he sounds like someone who might be good at that.
It's your secretary. It's a fun-
And I'm learning that, like, you know, the
Mhm.
pocket computer can tell you things,
Mm.
you know, it reminds me a lot, and I have to remember to remind it to remind me, but.
My problem is I get halfway through telling it to remind me something and then I don't click save.
All right, anything else? I feel like this is something we're gonna keep working on. This is just like a goal for the going forward, and we're gonna keep working on it and massaging it and figuring out what works best, but I feel good about what we've accomplished so far on that agenda item. The next item is the Ideal Vermont newsletter discussion. Did everybody have did you guys have a chance to read it? It pretty much went over everything that happened with Ideal Vermont. This came out in December. It was a pretty good overview, better than any notes I. Next one is actually tomorrow, and I may not make it because there's supposed to be a snowstorm. So I'm driving to Randolph tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure I'm gonna go to Barry and then back in the snowstorm, with a truck and trailer. But we'll see how adventurous I feel. But they do also have the. So this was, has everybody gotten a chance to kind of familiarize themselves with what Ideal Vermont is? With military, you had a chance, okay. So one of the takeaways I had from being a part of the Ideal group was that we can slow down. We don't have to invent the wheel ourselves, especially not us as a small group. There's a lot of people working on this, and part of it is just being comfortable talking about things and learning. So that was one of the reasons I also sent the Vermont League of Cities and Towns the toolkit they have. They've set up a really great resource for lots of opportunities for learning, especially when it comes to equity and municipalities. And I haven't had a chance to really dig into it, but there's a lot there. And so I think it's something we can think about as we set our goals for 2023. We can just think about what aspects of this are relevant to ourselves.
Yeah, you might be able to pick some of the topics from the League of Cities and Towns and discuss it
Yeah,
at one meeting, or, just
yeah,
don't try to.
do it all at once.
Yeah.
And they might not all apply, so.
I don't think all, yeah,
That will fit best.
yeah, which ones apply to a small, very rural town. How do you guys want to go about these kinds of discussions? Do you want to go around and everybody just say like 2 minutes their takeaway from reading the newsletter? Does that feel useful? Or do you want to just go with who feels like speaking? You can also just say pass if you don't want to say anything. That's how I was thinking of structuring it. Does that feel?
Yeah. Try that.
Okay. Does anybody have a strong desire to start?
Let me look at my notes.
Yeah, starting is hard.
I can.
You want to start?
Sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Logan. Start a timer, so
Thank you.
you have to keep track of your own time.
Thank you so much. Sort of my takeaway from reading this first newsletter was that sort of the scope of all this is so massive.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel relieved and excited to have this resource as something we can be looking at and helping guide us, because I feel like when we started this group, it was really great intentions and not too much idea of where we were going to go with it. And I think the good intentions are still there, and we all want to be involved and productive and helpful and thoughtful about these things. And there isn't, productivity is not like drastic changes and like change everything. It's just, and especially because we are such a small town, there may not be much that we can do.
Right.
But by being thoughtful and gathering and thinking about these issues, we will be kind of honing our minds to see issues if they arise, if and when. And I'm grateful to have this as something to look to. And it's great to also have like a little digest of issues that affect our nation that we don't necessarily feel here in this town, but to have a really accessible digest with all these little links you can click and videos to watch, and there's humor involved, and I liked it.
Nice. You got 10 more seconds.
No.
Anything else?
Super duper.
You don't have to fill the full 2 minutes if you don't. All right. Want to just go around the room? Does that make sense? Michael, are you up for going next?
No, you can go. I'll
Okay.
take the tail end.
Sure. So when I read this, it was, I was very excited to read it because it was, a lot of it was the notes I had taken, but in a much prettier format. And made sense of things I had written down, but I forgot what they were about. So, I will set myself a timer.
I can, you got me then.
It's okay, it should already be going, okay. I think. While some of this feels like really big picture, I think a lot of like similar to Logan, it is about. Just being aware of it, just reading it, just being comfortable talking about it as a group. And I think. When I first started this process, it did feel like we had to take on everything and fix everything or not fix everything or think about everything all the time. And now it's feels like we don't have to do that. We can just think about small steps. What small steps can we take one at a time? And what can we, as the proactive and thoughtful community that we are, do that is relevant and does set us up for being a really welcoming place for, anybody to be, for all of us to be. People who are already here, people who haven't even thought about moving here yet. And I think some of the things that I like is thinking about like celebrating joy. I think a lot of the talk about equity and inclusion gets bogged down with exclusion and racism and conversations that feel very heavy and hard. And then there's also ways that we can celebrate inclusion and equity. And that feels like something that we can definitely do as a town. And there's like great, like the cultural observations, things that we can celebrate. February is coming up, it's Black History Month. And it doesn't have to be big things, it can just be little things. There's my 2 minutes. Should we go with, yeah, we'll go with the owl, you guys are next. And let's see, Mom, I think you're first, that works.
Okay. Well, I always appreciate, there's definitions of different topics that are hard, but then the explanations that go with them or examples, I find are really helpful. And I find other towns that are already a little further into this than we are, looking at what they're doing is extremely helpful. And what I really, really enjoyed, I really liked the highlight of George Washington Carver's quote. I just thought that was really great. 'Cause, and so just though, it's very, I think the newsletter is really well put together, and the humor at the end, the little skit was really good too. So, and I don't think that we need to be putting out a newsletter or anything like that yet, but I think that, it does give us a lot of information and a lot of ideas. And I really appreciated the resource.
Great. Sherry, you're next. Mom, did you want to keep going? Sorry, you have
I'm
51.
all set.
Okay.
Yeah. Not a bit wordy person.
It's okay.
Kim is passing.
No, no, man.
Oh, no, you are gonna talk?
Yeah.
All right, here's Kim.
Hey,
Okay, great.
I'm thinking about the title, Inclusion and Equity. And I'm thinking about our taxation. Is there any way we could move some portion of our taxation to income and relieve property tax?
What are you talking?
That is above my
He's
knowledge level.
passing.
No, wait a minute. I want to switch the taxation to income instead of property.
But that's
That's not what we're talking.
Yeah,
You need to talk to the legislature.
yeah, you can contact your representative. It's,
And that ain't gonna happen.
All right, Sherry, would you like to go?
Yes, I found the newsletter educational. And even though I've come from an area where there were lots of people represented, I still learned a lot from it. And I'm pretty much paralleling the rest of what everybody said. I thought it was a great resource. It was educational and eye-opening.
Great. Todd, would you like to speak about this at all?
I can share a little bit. It was hard for me to digest because there's so many links and everything to try and figure out how to access all that stuff. And I wanted to challenge a couple things in there. There was a link that's titled "A company policy restricting hairstyle like braids and locks makes this form of racism institutional." But then if you click on the link, the court said that the policy was not violating the Civil Rights Act. So the arguments were kind of hard to follow. And then there was also the article on the calendar said that the main impetus for adding July and August was to immortalize Julius Caesar and Augustus, whatever his other name was. But it also helped to keep the months more similar. So like each month has approximately 30 days, where previously the months had each year, some months would go from like either 20 days or 60 days to make up for the rotation of the sun around the earth. So it wasn't just, immortalizing Caesar and Augustus, it was creating a calendar that's pretty much the same every year, except for leap years. So I just wanted to discuss that if anyone else has any other things. And it's also hard. I know Michael probably didn't look at this online to follow any of these links if you don't have the ability to view this online on a computer where you can go to YouTube or wherever else the links point you to. So it's not super accessible for those that aren't super technologically adept.
Yeah, good point. That was your time, Todd. Thank you so much for your comments and your insight and your great feedback. Lothar, would you like to speak to it at all?
Well, I really don't have a lot to add. A lot of this to me just seems to be, it's a duh,
Yeah,
I mean, really, it's why there's racism, you got me. I mean, it comes down to, okay, you're a parent, right? Would you be accepting if one of your children all of a sudden came home with either somebody of the same sex or of a different race? How do you feel about that?
yeah,
I mean, that's up close and personal. You know, you can say anything you want, oh, this is wrong, or this is wrong. But if it's right in your face, how do you really feel about it? You know, if you're okay with that, you're over the hurdle and everything is good. You know, if you're colorblind and all that, everything is good. The rest of it is just, it seems people feed a lot on this. You know, it's like, oh, you're different, so, and consequently, because I feel that way, other people are supposed to, which to me just doesn't make any sense. I mean, to me personally, it doesn't make any sense, you know, because I could care less, you know, but anyway, that's kind of straying from what we're talking about, but
There's an opportunity, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
this is. I'm
And-
done.
okay, thank you, Lothar. All right, Michael,
But I skipped me because
Oh. sorry.
I just received all of this in an email right
Oh,
before
okay.
the meeting, so I
Sorry.
haven't
Alright.
gotten a chance to sit with it.
So, I'll be honest, I am not overly impressed with, equity and inclusion. Because we are not an equitable society. We are not, you know, and we're not for a reason. You know, and I read through this and, you know, there's an interesting thing that you should, listen to if you get a chance from On Point today. And they were talking about equity and inclusion in the workplace and how, you know, these things are being set up and they're not really working. You know, everyone has a racial bias or a this or a that, and I keep coming back to, you know, this keeps coming back to, you know, forcing people to look or think a certain way, you know, and if you're talking about, you know, welcoming people into the community, you know, we have a sign that says welcome, you know, it's not welcome Black people or welcome white people, it's welcome. When you come into and I'm talking about this community specifically because, you know, you can have the broad world picture, but like we are dealing with the people here, the people that we interact with on a daily basis. And I'll agree with Lothar, or, you know, what you think or what you do is entirely up to you. And to have it seems like the equity and inclusion has an agenda to push certain narratives. And I don't think that is, you know, that's not representative of our society. You know, we are not an equitable society. And the only thing that we should be striving to be equal in is justice. You know, that is where we need to really put a bigger emphasis. Because we're not, you know, like the world is not equitable and we need to recognize that, you know, and our society is not equitable and that's not a bad thing. You know, we have flourished and the time's up.
That's it. All right, thank you, Michael. Randall, would you like to go? Or you want to pass?
I'm good, yeah.
You're gonna pass. Okay, that's fine. I thought maybe you were, but I might have just imagined.
You
telling me
already did that.
that. Great. Great. Thank you all for reading that and for this great discussion. This feels like part of what I would like to see this committee doing is just talking about these kinds of things and these conversations. And well, yes, I would agree. They're, you know, things, maybe they're also things that there's a lot of bigger conversations about. And so talking about them, even as small as we are, feels relevant. Okay, moving on. Work plan / goals for the committee for 2023. My goal only that I have so far, and this doesn't have to be like, we don't have to get these all out tonight. I don't think that should be our goal for tonight. I would like us to start thinking about our goals for 2023. And then we can come back at our next meeting and maybe we can all have a goal in mind. My goal is that we do more of this, coming together as a committee and talking and work problem solving and talking about something that might feel hard, and then moving on and having fun and laughing about things. that's my simple goal for 2023. And my other goal is to, figure out some small thing that we can do, which is the next item on the agenda, so. Does anybody else want to speak to goals for 2023?
It occurred to me in the discussion and then think, the top. Just all of it actually. That like equitable access to town information, meetings. To be putting our minds towards how do we engage our community? How do we do things in multiple ways so that they are accessible to people? It might be something we can't do anything about. Community involvement sort of feels down in that there isn't a lot of it.
Yeah.
We might not be able to change that, but maybe no harm in putting our minds to trying to boost community involvement. And that will involve having a equitable lens, because we can't just think about how we would want things. We have to think about folks who are different from us and how they might not come to things because, and so it'll take research, it'll take discussing, it'll take trial and error.
Right.
That's a thought.
Yeah, how do we just include more people, engage more people? It's a question we can try to answer in 2023. We don't have to actually get to the action part. We can just try to answer that question. And then we can work on that in 2024.
Yeah.
We're gonna take small steps, small steps. Anybody else want to talk about goals? Or do anybody feel really strongly about hashing these out? Although it is already 7:53, so I'm thinking we just think about it for our next meeting.
Yeah, can I just say that I really feel like the equity inclusion, to me, it's about communication. It's
Yeah.
about, really reflect, like looking inward at ourselves and how we are, and then looking outward and then communicating about it. I find that in the work that I do, there's certain things that I enjoy doing as part of working with horses, for instance, or this or that, that some people would think are like a little bit out there. Yeah, when I share those with somebody that I think probably wouldn't even consider or hasn't experienced, say, something like Reiki or energy healing or things like that, all of a sudden they're very, they've already tried and are, oh my gosh, yeah. And so not being afraid to really express yourself and share, I think, is really important. And for me, it's about not being afraid to communicate, so yeah.
Creating a safe communication space.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Then we can just keep this going for our next meeting. All right, let's keep
No,
going.
that sounds good.
Visual representation of our town's commitment to welcoming and inclusion. This was an idea I had, and I'm now just wanting to pull even further back on that and consider just welcome signs, signs that just say welcome. Have them at where people enter our town. They have them in many towns. I don't know if anybody saw the fun article I sent you with all the other towns signs, and the fun aspect of that is the slogans. Which does Tinmouth have a slogan? Do we have like a Tinmouth, the town?
Not that I'm aware of, but
I like that
people out there with opinions on it.
And I was thinking it might be just a fun community engagement idea to think of a town slogan. Just something fun that we can do to engage with the community and to think about.
You could have a bucket for town day for people
Yes,
to put
I would-
ideas in.
well, I was thinking of
Good idea.
Yeah.
the town, the town informational meeting that'll happen in March. You could have some ideas come up, and then just some town slogan ideas. And then my thought was for the welcome signs, and then we can talk about it, was just like a simple sign like they have for other towns when you enter, like welcome to Middletown Springs. And And then my idea for the town office was just another little. This would be something we would have to come up with the idea. And then we can't do it. We would have to bring it to the select board and make sure the town clerk is comfortable with it as well. So this is just something that we can think about and then propose. Yes.
You know, we have a welcome sign already.
Yes, but it's not like when people come into, like, when they enter the town. You know, you kind of slip into Tinmouth and you don't necessarily know you're in Tinmouth. And I was just thinking it would be something fun and it might feel more welcoming and it would be something simple that we could do. That would be,
And the Burlington Free Press article that was included in the agenda has cute, like Windsor, the birthplace of Vermont, Bristol, gateway to the Green Mountains, Guildhall, only town in the world so
That's
named.
wrong.
I know, well, that's
That's seriously wrong.
it's like, you know,
Come on.
and Pittsford is the sunshine village because a state survey once found that Pittsford has the most sunshine of any Vermont town. So they are now the Sunshine Village, you know, but so like those quirky things that then you're like, wait, why is it called that? And then you do some research and
Oh,
then
yeah.
like you're involved.
right, yeah, right. Something, so some silly thing we can put on our sign that people be like, wait, why is Tinmouth the, you know, the iron ore town or something? I don't know.
The iron ore is long
Right.
been dug up and gone away. We
Gone
are
away.
the only Tinmouth in the country.
So
In-
I tell
the
people
the
that.
only town
The
so
only
named
Tinmouth.
in America.
Only town so named. That would make us seem very cool.
It's not pronounced how you think it is.
It could be a how to pronounce thing. I like,
Yeah, there was people that came many years ago from Tinmouth, England.
Mhm.
And when they came in and announced that they were from Tinmouth, England, I said, oh, TYNEMOUTH. And they said, oh, no, that's Tynmouth. Named after us, but they spell it TEIGNMOUTH, and they pronounce it Tinmouth. But they came from England, all the way over here, and they
Let's
stopped.
see
in
why.
Tinmouth.
yeah,
Wow.
wow, that's fun. Yeah, that's
Like a fork time,
right.
right?
Yeah. Tate, good. Yeah, that would be hard to pronounce. I like the idea of a suggestion, just having, you know, collecting suggestions for town slogans and making it a fun activity.
Mhm.
You can just make a bucket and
We will get some
strips of paper.
rude suggestions.
Well, of course.
Well, like
Only the
Mama
brave will
says,
read.
It takes all kinds, and we're not missing a single one.
It's very true.
Who
He's a
said that,
vibrant-
Gil?
Tinmouth, we're all weirdos.
We have all kinds. Yeah, so. In terms of a welcome sign, it would be happy, you know, again, it would have to be something that we would. Decide we want to propose, and then we would have to bring it forward to the rest of the town. How does everybody feel about that idea?
I think it's a great idea. I always think like smile when I town of Wallingford, and then when I come back up the hill, nothing. Drive into Middletown Springs, and when I come back, nothing. So I think that'd be a great idea. And people would know Tinmouth isn't just the village center. You know, it's the whole town. Would be including everybody.
Right. I don't exactly know how many signs that means.
Well, every time another town has one, we'll put one on the other.
We have to find someone in town who can make that.
Yeah, well, there'll be like the Wallingford and Middletown and
Yeah.
Right.
I think Ira has them, but we could put them on that side.
Yeah,
Um,
and for, West Tinmouth, it would be West Tinmouth. Yes, you are a part of Tinmouth.
Yes, just like two sides about half a mile from each other.
Well, way back, they petitioned to join Wells.
Oh,
The
wow.
legislature wouldn't let them.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, they need a sign then. They'll feel more welcome.
So they remember where they're from.
Oh, that was 150 years ago.
Well, I know that people over there don't feel included necessarily, so partly their own fault, but partly, yeah.
Leave the mountain in the way.
Yeah, the
It
big
might
old
be
mountain.
Part of it. I think that if it was something we wanted to do, it would have to be like a grant funded thing. So we could write a community fund grant for it, pending approval of all of the needed parties. And it also doesn't have to be something we do super fast. It can be something we work on, and we can work on it for a year, and then we can put, we can write a grant next year and have the signs up. We can work as a true bureaucracy that takes about 1 million years. Realizing that that's what we are, we may as well embrace it and just go with it. So that's my thought there.
I
I really
have a
like. Sure.
Sorry, Lana, I have just one question. So if we're going to get ideas and things like that, then are we gonna have like the whole town vote on the slogans? How's that gonna work? Then it's very inclusive that way.
Would have to probably be something the select board would decide how they do that. I'm not entirely sure how a town slogan is
This committee
chosen.
can discuss it and try to figure it out.
Mhm. Could have like
Right,
the New York cartoon in the back, like you
Right.
pick however many and then.
right. And whether it's a voted on casually or voted on. Is it like a ballot that you get when you vote on town meeting? And you have to pick, fill in the dot for the slogan you vote on.
I'm into it.
We can, we'll just have this be an agenda item and we can discuss it. I think that it could be a fun project to work on.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the sign for the town office, just like a simple welcome sign was my thought. And also the hours of operation was like when you're open. I don't, you can answer that later, but
There's a sign in the window when I'm
Oh,
open.
I
And
looked through it, I
George-
didn't see it.
And George Levy had created a welcome sign. There was one out there. that
Oh,
said,
really? Oh, I missed it. Is it still there or is it?
I
gone?
don't know, I'll have to go look. It's been years. It's been up there for years.
Well, I was thinking one that was like right on the first door when you walk in, just like open.
Yeah, people.
Or
walk in-
welcome, I
Walk
mean,
in there and you can see.
Yeah.
signs are- The hours are posted in that window.
I missed it. I did look.
It's above the library box.
There you go. Well, maybe,
We could make that bigger maybe.
right. So I was just trying to think of like when I know I'm nervous when I'm going into a new space, like I had to go into a different town office to ask for help one time, and it was, when you're trying to go in and meet a new person and ask a question and you're bothering them and they're busy. Sometimes it's nice to know that there is a sign that says welcome and you might be wanted in there. That was my thought for the town office.
Oh, I can't put up the sign that I used to have. It said, never, never irk the clerk.
That one's my favorite one.
I do
hands
like
down.
that one. I think
over
that-
there.
Oh.
The lack of planning.
Your lack of planning,
Planning
yeah.
by you does not constitute an emergency.
And then my thought also was if having the hours well posted would be, then you don't have to help people if they come and you're not open.
If I'm here, I'm.
That's what the sign says. If she's here, it's open.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, because I went to one, it wasn't the town office, it was somewhere else. It was another office in that building and there were people in there, but they weren't open. And
If I'm here, I'm open. I don't adhere to that.
yeah, that thought. Okay,
I'm a public servant. Need to be here if somebody needs help.
yeah,
I open the door.
all right. And how do you feel about just like a little welcome sign?
I gotta go see if it's.
Out there?
It might have to be repainted, but
Yeah, there we go. Dust it
Just
off and
repaint it.
reposition it.
there was one that George could do with designs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that would be lovely. Great. Does anybody have any other thoughts about this idea? No? All right. Well, we'll keep the welcome sign on the agenda for our next meeting and we can all think up some great slogans to be the first in the box. do we want to have a box for the, do we want to? I guess we have to ask the select board if they would be willing to entertain this idea of a town slogan and then we could make a box.
Yeah, yeah. We have
Um,
till March.
Yeah. All right, working group reports. I know there's maybe only one working group that has met since our last meeting. Do you guys want to report at all? Terry, do you want to report on that one?
Logan can.
Logan can.
I have notes. We continue to edit the operator's manual. We're getting really close. Our next actions will be, once we finally get through this round, we're gonna send out sections to the people who know most about those sections to review them and see if our information is correct that we have there. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. We have things to add, like little blurbs about the town Wi-Fi and how it's accessed, and we were beginning to discuss, like, without having redundancies, are there things we can do for people who move to town that would feel welcoming? Is there a way to show up? Maybe have a postcard that if they're not there, we leave, or something, because they will come and get the welcome packet from Gail, but is there just something we could do? And that might not be part of this if we restructure, that might be part of the fire department offshoot of this. We are continuing to talk about it. And our next meeting will be February 6th at 7:30. Anyone else want to add anything?
Did we talk about maybe thinking about getting a new phone book out there
Uh,
about that?
we haven't really discussed much, but that felt like our logical next project.
I was gonna say, it's something we were at least talking about, so people can think about it.
Mm. Cool. Oh yeah, we discussed calling everybody. We might come back to the board and assign people 10 numbers or.
To going through. Great. All right, nothing else on that one?
That just occurs to me that if we are now adhering by open meeting law, which we are,
Yes.
we have to have at least part of this be in a physical location, because that group's been meeting only on Zoom.
Yeah.
Are you guys willing to do that? We can still have Zoom
Option.
options.
Somebody just has to be here.
Yeah. Are you okay with that, Gail, being here?
The 6th works.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yes, at least one person will have to come and sit with me.
I'll be here for sure.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
Back up a little bit about this slogan thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If we were to post this like on Front Porch Forum soon and have a box here,
Oh, that's a good idea.
you wouldn't be restricted just to that day,
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
just because.
I will ask Gail, could we put this on the agenda for the select board? The slogan, town slogan box,
Suggestion box.
suggestion box, and if they approve it, then we could,
I don't think you need to ask the select board to put out a suggestion box.
I have no idea.
No,
how
I mean,
these things
that's-
work.
I mean, you can put out a suggestion box for.
A town
either.
slogan.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the select board doesn't have, you don't have to go through the select board for every tiny little.
Well, I'm just trying to follow the rules really well right now.
No, there's no, I mean, that's not a rule. It's, put a box
And
out.
add
say,
It's just a suggestion.
That's it.
I put it on the agenda
Yeah,
and you can advise the select board
That-
that this committee is gonna do this.
that feels appropriate. Thank you.
Because
They
our
don't have to
intention
decide
is
whether
to
it's
have
okay.
it be a vote or something, so to include them in the thought process feels appropriate to me at least.
I wouldn't,
I would.
I wouldn't. I'd put the box out and say suggestions for town slogans. Seriously, I mean, it's, you don't have to make it overly complicated, and it's one more thing on the
But
select board's.
bureaucracy is overly complicated.
Well,
Well, I like Gail's suggestion. Should we? Do you agree by consensus that we put it on, we just advise that we're gonna do this as a committee? And
Let them know.
Let them know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Let 'em know,
We
Then they
just
can
gonna
do
let 'em know.
anything they want.
Right,
And
if
it's,
let them
in-
know.
and it's in the minutes.
Right.
People will see it.
More
I mean,
people will
it's
know.
One way of getting it out there. It's,
does anybody have a good box that would work for slogans? I don't.
I can make it, Bob.
no, put it in the ballot box.
I have an old ballot box that we used for the milfoil project. That I
Got the
can,
ballot box
There you
right
go.
out there.
Perfect,
Dump
that
it
would
in
be
the
great,
ballot box.
Sherry.
okay, I'll bring it.
Cause then we can move it to a meeting or something, cause the ballot box feel,
I don't wanna mess with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you can't move the ballot box.
Thank you,
Right.
Sheriff.
yeah, that's great,
Welcome.
Sherry.
How many people are we gonna?
Uh,
put this in?
Logan, can I make a
That doesn't
suggestion that
seem to
you make
matter.
a sign for it?
yeah.
Or repaint my box.
Yes, give me your box, Jerry. Or Lothar, would you like to paint it?
I don't think.
Okay. Rainbow.
Fantastic. And then we could just have a little sign that says, looking for suggestions for a town slogan.
Mhm.
And maybe we,
And we'll link to that article.
yeah, when we post it, we can link to that article, but we could also just, I don't know,
Do we need to make a motion on this action or?
Yeah.
we should.
Yeah.
We could just agree by consensus.
How does everybody feel about this?
Anyone against it?
Is anybody really opposed to this idea?
I think we should have, instead of the royal we, someone designated to post this in various places like the Tales of Tinmouth and Front Porch Forum, and come up with a timeline of when we're taking people's submissions so that we can advertise that as well. Maybe putting it out on February 1st and taking it down after town meeting day or something. So there's a time frame for people to act, and it's not an open-ended thing with a general idea out there with no one in charge of anything.
That sounds great. And then we can read them all.
The select board doesn't meet until February the 8th. So,
But we can put out the box,
Yeah.
okay,
but we're roping in the select board to let them know that we would like this to
We're just giving them the
discuss.
heads up.
Yeah.
okay.
It might be something we vote or,
Yeah, but this
it may
committee,
depend on what the proposed slogans are.
exactly.
yeah,
You
exactly.
might have to.
They'll care more
do
when
more
it
than
comes.
once.
Yeah, yeah.
Take one that's really catchy.
Yeah,
Right, like, does it make more sense to keep the period short, or should we say it'll be out until Fun Day?
right.
I mean, that's a long
No,
time.
no, just go until town meeting day, because that's, I mean, you leave it out there forever and people are just gonna forget about it.
And they won't do it until the day before town.
Yeah.
meeting.
Right, we could have it at town meeting
No,
day.
February
And
to
people
March
could-
is,
we
you
could ask
know,
more
you've got a
people.
month of.
And voting, when is voting day? We could have it out,
Seven.
so we
March
could have it out
7th.
on that day.
Okay.
And,
Right, when people come to vote, they might
They
not
can-
come to the, excuse me, information meeting.
Right.
But if they come to vote,
Mhm.
then they can. vote.
right, so we'll need strips of paper and,
I can put together, I'll get the box from Sherry, I can paint a sign. I can provide paper and a collection of pencils, we'll make some sort of
perfect.
little
I can give you,
Kit.
I have a bunch of pens and pencils.
Nice.
I'll have you-
attach the cup to the side of the thing as a whole thing.
Perfect.
Would someone else be willing to do the Tales and Front Porch Forum and maybe we work together with whatever I write on the sign? Who would like to work with me for that? Sherry? Okay.
Yep.
And if I can have it by Sunday, it'll go in the February tales.
Okay,
That's
Sherry.
great. Perfect. Does anybody have any concerns about this? Okay, great. So. Oh. sorry, Tom.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just wondering if we want to hold off. I don't know what a good time period to do this other than around town meeting would be. Maybe one of the tax days in August. Or
People might not be feeling
November.
very charitable that day.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, we don't have anything formalized at this point, and we're just beginning to discuss this. So asking for ideas is like front loading everything when we haven't, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and they could just be fun to read even if nothing happens.
Right, we could do it again. If it doesn't work out the first time.
I agree that this feels a little
Right.
rushed, but do we wait a year or do we,
Yeah,
I think
Uh,
Fun Day would be a good time to, like, we're doing community things, and that would be a good final day, and we could post what people have done.
or is the day that we bring up slogans and then it's tax day when they're due.
I mean, I think the only advantage of doing it now is that the people that generally do add their voice to town decisions will be
Engaged.
coming together in March. But that's not to say that we have to rush it, because it does.
What do you
It
think
also
about involving the kids at school? Like, this is a good creative thinking outside the box. This stuff takes time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It might be that we don't want to do it next week. It's
Right.
that we do wanna
Yeah.
Think about it and.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good
Good point, Todd.
way to slow, like,
We need to
help
keep
us.
reminding her. the rush thing.
Yes.
Keep it on the agenda.
Yeah.
It'll show up in the minutes for this meeting.
Yeah,
It'll show up in the select board's minutes, so.
yeah,
People can be thinking about it, or even put a little blurb in tails that says, this committee's thinking about doing this,
right,
put your thinking caps on, and
right.
we'll let you know.
We
when we
can
want-
go
when
slow.
we want something.
I really like that idea of getting the kids involved. I could reach out to the principal there and ask her if she thinks it would be something that the teachers would want to do with their kids.
And there might be a time that it'll fit in their curriculum,
Right.
between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, learning about Vermont history
What-
here.
What's the one that the school has, the slogan?
Oh,
Small heart, big heart,
Yeah,
small school, big heart or something.
yeah.
That's what they had a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, small town, big cars.
Does the committee feel okay with me reaching out to the principal, and asking her if there are any teachers who would be interested in having the kids at the school come up with some town slogan ideas?
Yes, do we want to coincide that though with our timing of when?
I think if we're deciding to not do this super
Right away.
fast, and we're just gonna keep it on the agenda, and we can decide when we want to put a box out.
See if the school has any
Then if the
interest.
school has,
time.
because they may actually have like a time that it has to, that works better for them. And if we're thinking we're not gonna be doing this until the summer or the fall, then we'd have time to plan it.
Got a unanimous consensus for Meadow to take action of reaching out to the principal?
Yes. Anybody have concerns about that? Okay, great. Members' concerns. Does anybody have any concerns? Okay,
This is
Yeah.
Todd again.
Yeah.
Sorry, my camera is not working on my laptop, so I don't know, I don't have a camera. My feedback is, we had an item called the newsletter discussion, but it was more of a individual report on
yes,
the newsletter versus a discussion. So I would like, if we do that again, I would like to have more time set aside and then allow for actual discussion instead of 8 one-way conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it feel like the 8 one-way conversations is a great way for everybody to be heard, and then there could be like 10 minutes for open discussion afterwards? Does that sound appropriate? Just trying to,
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to discuss?
well, it would be like, Todd wanted, he had. some great-
Clarifying points of what people talked about.
Yeah. We can
think-
try next time having it structured like a hybrid where it's half and half. Trying to keep it, I think my goal was to keep it like a limited amount of time. And focus in making sure everyone was heard, but I absolutely agree, Todd, that having it be more engaging.
Mhm.
Is great, so
I-
maybe next time we'll try.
I think that doing the roundabout and then going into discussion is a good model.
We'll do that. We'll try that next time, and if it doesn't
try.
work, we'll try something else.
Yeah.
Nothing is set in stone. Okay. Set our next meeting date. Last year, we met every other month. Do we want to meet every month this year? If we're doing more as a full committee? Or do we want to stick with every other month? What is the pleasure of the committee?
I think my personal opinion is to stay every other for now until we feel like we have direction and goals we want to achieve, or
Yeah,
actionable
yeah,
things. And then we could from there, if we feel we need to meet more often, we could change it.
does anybody else have anything you want to talk, an opinion about this one way or the other?
I agree with that.
Okay. Sherry, do you?
I'm
have any-
good.
All right, sounds like we will stick with our current schedule, which is every other month. And we've been meeting the third Tuesday of each month. And that puts us in March. 21st. March 21st, feels like a relevant date for some reason in my mind.
First day of spring.
Yeah, that's what it is. An exciting day. It's usually 4 feet of snow. but- So March 21st at 7 o'clock. And that will be here. Hybrid, Zoom or in person. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we ended 6 minutes for 8:30. Thank you all. It was a fun meeting, and I will see you all.
Colin getting all of the sugaring ready. He must be tapping out now.
Oh, God, I hope he's tapped out. I don't know, I haven't spoken to him in twice, a couple of weeks almost.
Hmm.
I've spoken to him, but not about that,
Yeah.
didn't come up.
Oh, I like the case for here.
And
Oh,
me
it's
too.
Magnetic. It straightens out fine, otherwise it just like.
Right.
Mohammed's been pestering Cole.
Oh, that's right.
He jumped out of the car on the way here. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm like, Mohammed, we
Making
call
fun of you.
people before we show up to their houses here, and he tried, but his phone number was out of order. Mohammed was like, I'm going.
Man, sorry. So,
Do you guys hang out here?
I think so. Gail, is all this gonna stay out?